Kia ora and welcome back. We're almost done. You've done really well at following through this video series. I hope you're finding it maybe inspirational and you're as excited about where education is going as how I am, because I'm just loving where education's going. Now I've got a couple of resources to recommend. There's a lot of work that's going on behind the scenes in New Zealand and around the world about thinking and the kinds of learning that our kids need and the skills they need to learn at schools to be thriving when they get out as adults into this new big changing world. I know I was watching something from Mind Valley the other day and they were saying that from the year 1900 to the year 2000 was 100 years of human growth and thinking and changing. From 2000 to 2020, in only 20 years, we completed that same amount of what used to take us 100 years, we now did in 20. And now they're saying from 22 to 26, in 4 years, we will complete that same amount of what used to take us 100 years to do it. We will now complete in 4 years. Now, when you look at that, entering college and coming out, say 4 or 5 years later, everything you've learned within there could be completely changed and different by the time you get out. It's changing that quickly. So there are professional educators who are devoted to studying successful education systems around the world, going, what's working, what's not, what's old, what needs to go, what needs revamping, and what do these kids need to launch into the future as successful young adults? What kind of education do they need behind them? Now, the stuff that I'm going to be talking about, meaningful learning, comes from David Orsabel. He was an incredible educational psychologist who dedicated his entire life to the study of successful education and thinking, and how does a human being learn and think and do new skills and that kind of stuff. He died in 2008. He was well into his 90s and his entire life was dedicated to this. You've got people like Sir Ken Robinson. You've got people like Erica Twani becoming Einstein's teacher, who she's taken a lot of David Orsabel's work and modernized it. And so if you're interested in this kind of stuff, I would also recommend Karen Tui Boys, who is our very own New Zealand author. I mean, on her bio, this lady's incredible in education. Not only is she an author and a teacher and various other things, but she creates the Teachers Matter magazine and all the teacher conferences and workshops. She's the CEO of Spectrum Education. She's a director in the Institute for the Habits of Mind. She was awarded the New Zealand Educator of the Year twice, New Zealand Speaker of the Year twice, New Zealand Businesswoman of the Year. She's spoken in 20 different countries, and she is at the cutting edge, leading front of this kind of stuff that I'm talking about. This is the stuff that she's preaching. So as a parent who has actively chosen, I want to educate my child, I choose to pull them out of the old system, and I choose to embrace homeschooling because I understand each of these stages that they'll go through, and I'm going to maximize their learning at each point so that my kids, when they come out, are going to thrive. They're passionate about learning. They love life. They're ignited with interest and curiosity, and they have the skills based. Then these are the kind of books where for home educators, that we can read them as parents and we can go, yeah, I can do that in my home too. They're very cool. They're very cool. Anyway, we've just come off where we started classes 1 to 3 foundational years, teacher-led learning. We transitioned and started to hand more control over to the children for the middle school years. And then we handed even more control over towards child-led learning by the time we were at intermediate. And we were now really at reception learning, project-based learning. And then we've jumped off that blackboard and we've jumped across to this blackboard, and now we're looking at classes 8 and 9. These are the first 2 years of secondary schooling. We're looking at this model, this meaningful learning. We've now got this piece of knowledge behind us. We can read and write and spell and count. We can research, we can do projects, and I kept referring to these things called executive functioning skills. We've been starting to develop these executive functioning skills or soft skills. What am I talking about? What are executive functioning skills? These are skills that we need as adults heading out into the workforce as young adults. These are skills that we need throughout our entire lives to do our jobs well. Whether we work for somebody else, whether we run an organisation, whether we own our own business, it doesn't matter. These are skills, core skills that we need. We need great communication skills, innovation and creativity, reasonable risk taking. We need to know how to be planning and organised, and time management, and we need task initiation, which means we can start a task without somebody having to come and start it for us. Obviously, all of our organisational skills to get things started. Problem solving skills, flexible thinking that has to change as we acquire new knowledge and the environment changes in some way around us. Working memory, we have to be able to go back on the stuff we've previously learned in years gone by and bring it forward again and apply it to the new situation. Emotional control, not flying off the handle, not having meltdowns and breakdowns, not flipping out. Persistence, life's going to be tough and we're going to need some grit. Accuracy and striving for excellence. It's not just good enough just to get by and do it, but to really do it well. Questioning skills and applying prior knowledge that we have and then bringing it forward into new situations and making things meaningful. This is what I mean by executive functioning skills. We've been starting to develop these through those junior years as we've been coming up through the primary and the intermediate. But now in these early secondary, we are really starting to actively hone these skills. And we're going to use this 6-step formula of meaningful learning to hone these skills. It's kind of a two-way thing though. You need these skills to do this well, but you need, in order to, as you go through this process, you will learn and hone these skills. So they're directly related to one another. But we're in this process for a couple of years. That gives us hundreds of hours of practice. And the more we practice it, the more we come out the other end with these skills honed. So what is the meaningful learning practice? It is to be able to plan a task, to learn a new skill, to be able to explore, research, practice, relate, and self-assess. If we just follow those 6 steps like a formula over and over again, we will acquire new skills, new knowledge, new learning. These are our secondary year projects, classes 8 and 9. Yes, it is project-based learning, but now back where we were in class 6 and 7, where the teacher, remember I said we were doing that thing called reception learning? The teacher was providing, you may do, we're studying the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. You may pick any aspect within that to go deep into. Now instead of giving set topics, now those topics are coming from the heart. Genius topics, passion projects. They start little and then over the 2 years they get progressively bigger and bigger and bigger. This is stuff that fires these kids up. They want to learn this. This is them finding their way in society. This is my role. This is what I want to contribute. This is how I want to be a part of society. These are the skills I want to take me where I want to go. And I want control of that learning journey. I want a say in what I learn and how I learn it and how it's going to apply to me. This is a really powerful stage of learning, but it cannot be done unless the primary and intermediate solid core has built up towards it. You can't just let someone go who doesn't have, if you can't read and write and spell and count and research and discern and time manage and all that stuff, you're going to really struggle here. So we've got to make sure we've got that other stuff done first. So planning, the kinds of skills that we're learning. Let's say somebody's going to design a sleep out. Let's say this person is 15, 16 years old. So 15 years old, they're in their first or second year of early secondary schooling. They want to move out of the house and they want to design a sleep out. It's got to be low cost, it's got to be a self-build, it's got to be doable. So first of all, we have to plan this process. There's goal setting, there's planning, there's decision making, prioritization, what comes first, there's accountability and responsibility. There's all sorts of skills going on to plan to get this going. Then we need to start exploring. That's the next stage of the formula. Now the independent learner is going, okay, prior knowledge, what do I know about a tiny house or a sleep out that's going on the back lawn that I'm going to build because when I'm 16 I want to move into that and I want my own space separate from the main house. I know that, I need to understand about what things are built of and insulation and wiring and roofing and costs and planning consent knowledge. How big can this thing be, and how much space have we got, and some mapping and some architectural plan drawing, and is this going to be mobile? Am I putting it on a trailer? Am I using a horse float and converting that? What am I, there's all sorts of stuff. Questioning, we've got doubts, we've got curiosity. It has to have meaning and purpose. The meaning and purpose is, I really want my own space. For a 15-year-old who's flexing their muscles and going, I want my own space. Great, you build and provide your own space, buddy. You're going to plan it. You're going to explore everything you need to know. Do your research. And then, this is your research. And your researching is not just Googling. Yes, there'll be some videos that you'll need to watch online. There might be interviews. You might do a site visit to someone who builds tiny houses. You might go look at those cabins and things. You're using all of your senses. You're going to need to visit a lumber yard or Mitre 10 or Bunnings. You're going to need to price up electrician stuff. You're going to need to look at how to build a trailer online or something. You're going to need to look at how would you wire something basically. You're going to need to look at insulation and different forms of, and claddings and the benefits and costs of various things and the safety ratings and the availabilities. There's a lot of research. These projects aren't done in 5 minutes. These projects take months and months, and a lot of skill. And the teacher's not teaching this. That's the important part. I'm not teaching them how to wire. I'm not teaching them the difference between this cladding and this insulation. This is their independent stuff. Then they've got to do the hundreds of hours of practice. This is your drawing the plans. This is then turning those plans into a proper scale model and testing everything out. Then from the proper scale model, it's going to end up as, what will then be, and it's got to produce all of its working documents so that when you go to upscale it to the full size thing, you've got all your working documents and plans and various things. You've got to have to learn the skill, like what skills are you going to need to build this? What power tools do you need to learn how to drive? Do you need to learn how to weld? This is your creativity. How are you going to maximize the space? Everything in it, because it's a tiny space, is going to have triple usage. You're going to have to collaborate with a lot of people. There's a lot of communication skills, creativity, questioning. There's a lot of, you need to be ringing people, emailing people, asking. You've got to take leadership of your project to make this happen. You are project manager in this, and you're aiming for excellence. You're not building a piece of garbage on the back of the paddock at home. This thing's got to be watertight and square and straight and functioning, and if you want to move into this tiny house space, then you're going to do it properly. There's a relating step in there. They've got to understand, is this learning meaningful? This is the key. We're not just completing projects because we've been told by someone that's meaningful in life, go and complete it. We need you to do an essay on the World War II and the concentration camps. We need you to do a such and such on this. We need you to do a film study on that. We need you to do a book study on that. We need you to do a blah blah on that. Now we're not there. We're here. It has to be meaningful to them. I want to move out of home onto the back lawn. I want my own space. It's got to be relevant to them. There's so much problem solving that comes into this, and it comes with speaking with others. You know, when you air an idea with another person and you get other people's input and people questioning you, and you have to answer and you have to really clarify your thoughts and your thinking processes. It's not just keeping all your work in your head, it's this being able to speak to other people. This is what I want to do. This is how I'm going to raise the money. This is where I've sourced everything from. This is my thinking so far. Help me make this happen. There's a lot of relational skills. And then at the end of the process, and throughout the process, in fact, the self-assess pretty much comes at the end of every part of the process, each step of the way. You have to self-assess and understand your own reasoning and your own actions. I made this decision to go here. I chose this cladding because of this. I've chosen this insulation because of this. I've chosen to do this size because this. I've chosen this form of lighting for this reason. There are consequences to your choices in real life, and decisions impact reality. When these projects are meaningful, your decisions impact reality. If you make a dumbo decision about your cladding, you take shortcuts, or you don't learn something properly as a skill, your house is going to fall down. You know, there's consequences. Can you see the difference in this learning? Can you see how relevant this is, and how, if you work this process enough, these executive function skills come out the other end? And can you see these young people now, 16 years old? I've got a role, I've got a purpose, I've got skills, I'm well versed in this. I could choose to go to a polytechnic or university, I could choose to do extra higher learning, I could choose to start a business, I could choose to work for someone. Perhaps I'll go and do a trade or an apprenticeship, perhaps I'll invent something, and if they come with, and they've done hundreds of hours of practice on these skills, can you see what an asset they will be in the world? It doesn't matter that we don't know what their job's going to be. It doesn't matter if it hasn't been invented yet. If they come out from the formal education process with this and a love of continual lifelong learning, because they love learning and they're excited by it and they're capable and it's meaningful. Can you see these young people stepping into the world? The world is their everything. They could do anything. And as homeschooling parents, we're standing there going, yeah, I've prepped my kids ready to go out there. Doesn't matter what's coming in this new world. My kids have got this. They've got the skills behind them, and they're passionate learners, and they've got this. And if the thought of building a tiny house freaks you out completely, take it back a step. Maybe they're going to they want to learn to be a fashion designer. Maybe they want to learn a language. Maybe they want to learn to be a concert pianist. Maybe they'll want to learn anything. This process applies to them and anything, but suddenly, in those college years, their learning is theirs. Doesn't that just make the hairs on your arms stand up and tingle? Oh, I love education. I love where we're going. I love this new adventure and where it's heading. I hope you love it too. Congratulations on homeschooling. I'll see you on the way. You've got my email if you need me with any questions.